Northern Italy, world famous for its beautiful scenery and cities. You will find the small town of Cremona just outside that city of Milan that this weekend will be playing host to the round one of the IAME Euro Series in 2025. We have witnessed all the qualifying heats, qualifying, super heats. We are now ready for the finals. 3 of them that are about to take to the circuit. But let's have a look at that circuit first of all. The Cremona karting circuit, year of opening 2015, event record set by Mirabaldis with a 49.113 set in free practice on Thursday. No one's been able to beat that purely due to rain. The track itself, though, an absolutely fantastic layout. It is a long start-finish straight, 235 meters, that is then conjoined with a long back straight of 150 meters. Total track length, 1.2 kilometers. It widens between 8 to 10 meters with an elevation change of 4. It is a relatively flat circuit in the farmlands of northern Italy. Corners, there are many of them, 15 in total, 10 to the right, 5 to the left. And that includes those 4 hairpins out on the circuit. All of them provide overtaking opportunities. We see them in towards turns 3, 4, 5, 8, 12, and 11 as well. We've seen them into turns 1, 2, 15, 14 as well. All over the circuit we have seen overtakes. It is a fast-flowing, demanding circuit for the drivers. Top speed, they'll be reaching 123 kilometers an hour into the braking zone of turn number 1. That is in dry conditions. It's a little bit slower in the wet, averaging around 87 kilometers an hour around the lap. Put it this way, the minis, when they cross over the styming beam, they cross over the speed loop, 101 kilometers an hour is what they're doing over that line. Brilliant to see. Myself, Anthony Jordan, Guillaume Alvarez in the box. Guillaume, we're looking forward to this one. 3 races to go.
3 races to go. Indeed, the 3 most important of all weekend. Welcome along once again, everybody. Buongiorno a tutti. If you're joining us for the first time, live on IAMEseries.com, on YouTube, Facebook, and Motorsport TV. As always, we'll get you covered to follow the opener of the IAME Euro Series 2025. The first of 4 rounds, starting for the first ever time here in Cremona on the beautiful Cartoromo that went out from the ground like a decade ago and is being run and managed by Ennio Gandolfi, former World Cup winner back 20 years ago. The first race coming up, X30 Mini, the youngest drivers that we have out there between 8 and 12 years of age. Only the 36 best of them will make it to this round. Only 1 driver, unfortunately, missed the cut as they make their way out of the pit lane onto the track. The little parade and the chance for you guys to enjoy the spectacle of the best youngsters out there. The grid in full in just a few moments that will be led by George House and Orsted Newstead, some of the young competitors from Great Britain. Cremona hosting for the first time the IAME Euro Series, and what a weekend it has been so far. Conditions were on and off a little bit. We had Friday onto dry circuit, Saturday in between, a lot of rain, drying circuit as well. For today, the rain has been with us since last night. It's been drying out for the past few minutes since lunchtime. But as you can see, the racing line might be drying out a little bit, but the wet patches are plenty.
Here's a look at the Drivers' Championship standings. Then going into this final, George House with the 50 championship points after scoring well at the end of the qualifying heats and super heats. He leads the championship ahead of Austin Newstead and Mattis Brageau. Daniel Ferguson 4th in the points ahead of the Italy's Lorenzo Di Pietrantonio. Milan Baku ahead of Harry Williams. Mason Brooks, Christian Kobe and Alex Riley round out the top 10 of the championship for Ireland, and looking forward to seeing what's going to be happening in this one, because like I say, that's going to change dramatically in this race because the grid is no longer separated into 2 groups. It is one big group of 36 Mini X30s. They're about to go to battle here. Only 1 driver eliminated into this one, unfortunately. Oliver Waitins is the 1 driver that does not make the cutoff. A big shame for him. He'll be having to watch this one from the sidelines. But 36 of his fellow colleagues will be going to work in the next few moments' time. This race, 13 laps, the longest race they will have done over the course of this weekend. And the drama, the tenseness, everything like that, it's all starting to build here. the tension really starting to build indeed. There you can see the 430 of Mathis Brajot, who's starting this one on the second row of the grid. P2 in his superheat earlier on. Great results for him. But let's have a closer look at the category itself. Mini X30, drivers aged between 8 to 12 years of age. 37 entries into the weekend. That's whittled down now to 36 for this race. 14 different nationalities from all over the world taking part this weekend. The karts themselves, 60cc is the power unit, outputting 10 brake horsepower. Minimum weight 110 kilos, any gram underneath that. And they are in a spot of bother. If you have just watched Formula One, I'm sure you know someone else who came underweight in a certain race. But I won't spoil that any more than I have already. Right, a little more of the karts as well. Tyres, these are an important one. The Comets that are going to be used over the course of this weekend. They have used the dry compound, the K1DMs over the weekend, but they are fitted with the K1DWs for this one. They get the 2 sets allocated over the entirety of that weekend. And I can imagine a lot of them have deployed maybe a fresh set of wets in this one, but I'm looking down and a lot of them, I don't believe, have got new sets on. All used sets that I think we've got for the majority of the front runners on that one, but we will confirm that in a few moments' time. Guillaume, pretty hectic with the minis over the course of this weekend. If you cast your mind back to literally a week ago, Jesse Phillips for Fusion Motorsport won the Open Games here at this very circuit. However, this time, George House starts it on pole position. There he is on your screen, second in his superheat earlier on today. Qualified 11th in Friday's qualifying session. 2 qualifying heat wins and a second place puts him on that front spot.
And now he received the latest information and pieces of advice from Martin Bean, the race director, long-time race director of the IAME Euro Series, along with other RGMMC competition around the world. Last handshake to George House, who will be our pole sitter for the final. And with that comes a mission to hold the pace at the end of the formation lap to make sure that the formation of that grid entering the last tram line on the way to the lights out will be well respected, as we have Mr. Chris Lambrecht on the left side of the picture and Mr. Roland Geidel, the founder and chairman of the RGMMC group, along with Mr. James Geidel, the man responsible for everything that's happening here for a good number of years leading to this day.
The man, the myth, the legend himself. We are moments away from getting this one started. You can only imagine the conversation that's going through there, but smiles all around. And whenever you see Roland, you go up to me, Roland, how are you? His always response, never been better. Love it. Here we go. Never been better, as well as this man here, Austin Newstead, won his superheat earlier on. Really good show for him and had those good results as well over the course of it. Had 2 qualifying heat wins, P15 in his last qualifying heat. But you have to remember, he qualified 22nd ahead of this racing, and now he finds himself in this final, starting on the front row of the grid. There he is in his Musto wetsuit. Are you going sailing there, Austin, or are you going karting? Not too sure, but there we go. He's primed and ready for this one, and you can imagine looking forward to seeing what we can do on the outside. And what we've seen, Guillaume, the outside row in these wet conditions have actually been the more favourite place to start.
Absolutely so. And on a couple of occasions, the pole sitters that are due to start from the inside choose to switch position. And look at the determination in the eyes of Mathis Brajot from France, the standard bearer in this class for the Spirit Racing Team from Switzerland. Mathis Brajot will be starting from the second row on the grid, P3 onto that starting order. And the thumbs up to the camera, always nice to see the motivation in the eyes of those young competitors. Mathis Brajot, who pulled out some very, very interesting results all throughout the course of his weekend. Mathis, with a strong result earned at the end of what had been strong battles all throughout the mini class here in Cremona. Mathis Brajot third on that grid, just behind the pole sitter George House. Let's see what he can do, because he's going to have strong opposition behind and by his side as well, with Harry Williams that you saw at the wheel of his Car Republic machine from Fusion Motorsport.
Harry Williams, who was the winner of the Open Games last weekend as well. I called Jesse Phillips earlier on. He's running around in the juniors. But in the mini category, yes, Harry Williams taking the win of that one a couple of weeks ago. Daniel Ferguson there on your screen, starting this one, P3. It's a pretty solid weekend for Daniel Ferguson. Not really much drama to report from him. Good qualifying, P4 overall. You can see Lewis Mackie on the spanners for him this weekend. Never finished outside the top 10 overall. His best result has been a second place. He did finish P4 earlier on in the Superheat. He had a P4 and a P6 in his qualifying heats as well. So, again, just solid results all the way throughout this weekend. Reports on weather for the time being. Clouds are pretty light at the moment. We are seeing some contrast in the clouds as well, as there Lorenzo Di Pierantonio of Italy. Fabulous helmet design he's got there. Real throwing it through, running with the Fusion team this weekend. And again, another driver who has impressed over the course of this one, qualifying 12th overall. Really bringing it back in the qualifying heats, though. A second, a fifth, and a third. And he has really been showcasing some good talents here. There is the rain radar on your screen. We are in a pocket of clear air. However, that blue blob is heading right for the circuit. And I can imagine we will get some precipitation maybe in the next 10, 15 minutes or so.
And now you jinxed it for good for the drivers competing in
You're
the
welcome.
final, expecting at least the track to stay in those conditions. But commentator's curse is a thing in karting, whether you believe it or not.
Well, I think you'll find that the drivers will appreciate me saying that, because a lot of them, they don't want those mixed conditions. The track right now is in a state where at the end of this final, maybe the end of the junior final for the seniors, it will be a half and half. So you just don't know. If it rained, that means it's always wet. There on your screen, Milan Baku starting this one on the fourth row of the grid. The Belgian has had a relatively solid weekend, had some spills earlier on, finished his superheat earlier on in P7, but again has delivered some good results over the course of this one. Qualified inside the top 10, never finished outside the top 5 in his qualifying heats. A fifth, a second, and a third. Some really strong results. There on your screen, you can see some of the juniors and seniors watching from the sidelines. You saw there briefly Harrison Mackie, of course, his brother Lewis, his elder brother, spannering on this one. There is Alex Riley for Ireland, starting this one on that fourth row alongside Milan Baku. Third place in his superheat. Really, really strong result for the Irishman, really delivering some good ones for the XL Motorsport team.
Yeah, definitely so, considering it was only P17 at the start of the weekend in qualifying, managed a couple of good results, including a P4, and finishing in qualifying P12, picking up a good result that would allow him to start within the top 8 on the outside line. On the row number 9, you will see Christian Corby from Ireland, another driver to keep an eye on from the Fusion Motorsport squad. You can see, you can read the concentration already in the eyes of Kobe out there. It will be 9 on the grid. Kobe that has been pulling out some good results as well throughout the weekend, with a 4th and a 5th as best results in the qualifying heats. Some of the mechanics and friends along the track, keeping an eye on the skies as well. And the live timing brought to you by Apex Timing as always, something you can find on the IAME Euro Series official website.
There is Mason Brooks for the Fusion Motorsport team as well. Good weekend for him. Had a spill earlier on in his super. He did finish that one in P11. However, good, solid results over the course of this weekend, despite the fact that he qualified 25th, brought it back massively in the qualifying heat. Second, a win, and a 9th in those races. Put him on the front row for the second superheat earlier on today. However, that race didn't go his way, finished it in P11, but still starts with inside the top 10 for this final. The grid is told to clear as we look there at Aaron Burhofer from Switzerland, who will be starting this one on the 6th row of the grid. Again, another driver who has delivered some good results, but will be starting outside that top 10. He will be one of, well, I'm not going to say one of the wild cards to potentially take the win on this one, because we have seen drivers come from 22nd in these races through to take qualifying heat wins. So it's incredibly possible for any one of these drivers to take the wins. As you see, again, other drivers watching from the sidelines there, preparing themselves to see what could be happening in the next few moments. Yellow light is flashing at the front of the grid. That is indicating that we have got less than 30 seconds to go until the whistle blows, the lights go out, we get the drivers going for their formation laps to kickstart the first final of the 2025 season. The whistle blows, the light flashes green at the start line. Let's take you through then the full starting lineup as the sea of mechanics, flock of mechanics, cull of mechanics, I don't know what you would call them, but as they run off the circuit. Here we go then, George House and Austin Newstead round out row number 1, and all British row number 1. They'll have Mathis Brageau and Harry Williams, the winner of this pre-round of the Open Games last weekend. On row number 2, Daniel Ferguson and Lorenzo Di Pietrantonio go from row number 3. They'll have Milan Baku and Alex Riley on row number 4. Kristen Kobe and Mason Brooks go from row 5. They round out the top 10. They'll have the likes of Aaron Buchhofer and George Clark on row number 6. Ebram Shelvis and Colby Patterson go from row 7. Johnson Stewart and Mason Hibbert go from row 8. They'll have Aurelia Longatano and Charles Clough on row number 9.
Row number 10, we'll see Charles Ural and Kim Minaj alongside each other. Row number 11, Wayne Goldchak, the Winter Cup winner back in February, with a lot of job to produce with Denver Boss by his side. Row number 12, Henry King and Theo Pelfrene. Then we have row number 13, Yalis Sami as well as Alexander Frickberg, followed by Luis Paternat and Max Cruz. Row number 15, Stanislav Zierko and Andy Stewart. And at the back end of that grid, row number 16, Milo Cornel, Nahil Padovani, and we have Mathis Knott and Mathis Augustin, as well as Oli Sori and Sasha Miras. 36 competitors, not one more, unfortunately, for the one that didn't make the cut at the end of those qualifying heat and super heat races. Our thoughts are with Oliver Wagens, the Spaniard, that missed the cut for only 2 little points, but I'm sure we'll get his revenge coming to the next rounds of the IAME Euro Series. All eyes on the track and off as well, with the many cameras surrounding the circuit, with Joanna Falcao, David Manchester and the rest of the RGMMC team in the race control. These are the ones keeping a close watch on anything that's happening all through the course of those finals and during the weekend, sending what they see, the result of the investigation, to the officials who will be making those decisions. There's been a lot of decisions being made throughout the weekend, whether it is for warning flag, front fairing misplaced, not so much fair play behavior from some of the drivers. We've had a disqualification as well. Sometimes these decisions are hard to take, but that's part of the game, that's part of motor racing. And as you can see, the track is slightly drying, 11 degrees Celsius in the air. This has been the average temperature that we've had all weekend. Still very cold and humid in this part of northern Italy. Something that we have been used to have here in Cremona, but there's a beginning to everything. They had rain last week for the Open Games. Once again this weekend, let's see if we'll finish the day in drier conditions or not.
Let's find out then. Into the tram lines, it's go time, it's race time. We are racing in Mini X30 down towards turn 1. Great stuff for the inside road, but watch out for Austin Newstead on the outside. Can he sweep through? He can, but he spins on the exit of turn number 2. And Austin Newstead, and it's pandemonium. There are carts everywhere at turns 2 and 3, and we are gonna have to piece our way through this one. Who is out and who keeps going? Well, one of them definitely was the man starting on the front row of the grid. Austin Newstead, he is out. There is the 268. He's out as well. The Eichmanns Grand Prix, Milan Baku had problems there. Mason Brooks was out. Aaron Buchhofer is one that's out. I think Alexander Freitberg was another, and maybe Nahil Padovani could have been another. There was a sea of drivers involved there, but crucially, Mason Brooks and Aaron Buchhofer, they have not got restarted, and I think are out of this final. Well, that's a big shake-up there, Guillaume. Not the start we would have wanted to see, but crucially, at the front, one driver who's not noticed anything that's happened is George House.
Yeah, definitely not the start anyone wanted to see, especially now the driver is involved. Big clash into those opening few corners. Let's have a look back at the classification. George House is indeed leading the way, 7/10 of a second in front of Daniel Ferguson, fighting his way through up to his second from Mathis Brageau. Lorenzo Di Pietrantonio down in 4th place from Rayleigh Pattison, Kobe Clark, Hybert Clough running out the top 10. And a couple of drivers at the back end, Mason Brooks, as we said, also Aaron Buchhofer, Alias Sami, Alexander Freiberg, and a couple of others like Milan Beku from LGP Racing Team, who have been among the drivers losing a pile of places, as long as with Harry Williams all the way down to P16 as he was starting from row number 2 on the grid. So disastrous ton of event. and especially for the driver starting at the forefront of the grid alongside our pole sitter, Austin Newstead, who went sideways onto the curb. We might need to see that again to really elaborate what happened and what led to that big coming together, but certainly the most disastrous scenario the young Fusion driver could expect.
Indeed. Well, George House now finds himself on his own in the lead of this race, 1 second further up from Ferguson and Mathis Brageot, who is in tow in third place. There you can see Lorenzo Di Pierantonio in P4, all on his own as well. He's going to try and want to close in on this one as the battles behind are closing in as well. Alex Radu, Colby Patterson, Chris Incobi and Mason Hibbert, they're all fighting for position. But George House, I don't think, is too phased about being all on his own. Fastest lap of the race, 109.439, and he has broken away nicely now. The gap, 1.1 seconds from the rest of the field. There you can see the train going in. Every time these drivers will pass the mechanics stand, you will see the hand gestures from the mechanics, and every single one of them is saying to push, push, push. Do not overtake, do not battle or anything like that. Get in a slipstream and push each other along, because that is what you can see. The track is in a state where it's drying enough now where you could possibly put in some good lap times, not have to worry about, oh, do I need to take the wet racing line? Do I need to take this? You just take the normal racing line, and there's you seeing it. Focus, push, keep going, don't do anything silly, and just close those gaps. Watch it. It's over a second right now between House and Ferguson, with them working together. Oh, it fractionally comes down, but it's working. They will close that gap as long as they don't start fighting.
Yeah, it stays pretty much the same. The big news is that it doesn't get any bigger. So for George House, certainly not what you would expect, pushing the way he does with the fastest lap in the race. For Daniel Ferguson and Mathis Brageot, it seems to be working, pushing each other toward the same goal, trying to make contact and get an overtaking done on George House. Here's a look back on the starting procedure. Mathis Brageot on the inside, on the outside line, trying to get ahead of the Frenchman. Austin Newstead, a little contact maybe onto the curb and sent sideways into a total spin and on chaos with a lot of drivers involved, being bang and a lot of contact here and there, hopefully. And thankfully everybody seems to be okay and was able to keep going. But here's another angle of Newstead, being sent away with one of the drivers as well, going into a spin as well. So a double spin in the middle of the pack, and then it was the big coming together just a few meters after that.
Yeah, indeed. So moments happening thick and fast, but big one there. And I think that was moments there with Harry Williams, I think, at the start of that race. Not too sure, but clearly a very mixed of emotions that'll be going through that one. Austin Newstead is still in this race, I will stress, circulating in 18th place right now, and we have seen him gain those positions in the past, but like I say, he's a long way back right now. Johnson Stewart with now the warning flag, and Guillaume, plenty is happening.
Yeah, definitely so. And 2 laps ago, actually, from row starter, Austin Newstead was 25. So he's picking up place after place. That's going to be interesting to follow his progress through the field. And another bad news, I'm afraid, for Wayne Goldchalk, who is out of this race, joining Mason Brooks into the DNF drivers for the winner of the Winter Cup back in February in Valencia. This weekend has been going from bad to worse. Nothing seemed to work out for Wayne Goldchalk, unfortunately. And hopefully for him, he will get back stronger for round 2 of this year's IAME Euro Series that will take us to Spain once again in Zuera in the month of May.
Indeed, and that's 2 of the Jamie Green Racing drivers out of this race. Ilias Sami out as well, and that's a stark difference from their first weekend appearance in the IAME Series at the Winter Cup, and where the Jamie Green Racing team had success in, I think, all 3 categories, which was great to see. This time around, no such luck for them, and 2 of their drivers out of this final. George House, though, for XL Motorsport, delivering a good run here. He has not been phased by the 2 drivers behind, pushing them along. He has extended that gap now to 1.4 seconds as Milan Baku sets the fastest lap of the race. He's on his charge back through the order as well. And with the championship also, it has updated, of course. George House, who's taken maximum points earlier on within those qualifying heats and super heats, with the 50 points now, he's looking at 100 championship points to his name. and he's pushing along nicely in this first round of the championship. There on your screen, still fighting. Ferguson in second place. He's trying to close that gap down again. It's fluctuating here. Guillaume down to 1.3. I just don't feel like they're matching the pace right now. I don't think anyone's got any exemplary pace that they're going to close in at a great rate of knots.
Yeah, that's exactly the case. We are halfway through that final of the mini class, a steady part of the course, as we keep a close watch on the battle between Ferguson Brajo and Di Pietrantonio, two of the drivers from Fusion Motorsport, splitting in half or being surrendering Mathis Brajo from Spirit. Then Christian Kobe down in fifth. A little bit further back, a second trainer driver with Kobe already and Pattinson running into turn number 8. This is a battle for 5th place indeed. Kobe leading that train in front of Pattinson and already in the middle as well. That's going to be interesting, those two, a group of 3 drivers. As for now, the battle for the win seems to be quite steady, with George Schwartz in control, 1.5 second at the advantage of Daniel Ferguson, who has himself half a second advantage on Mathis Brajo. Fastest lap in the race goes to Milan Deku, all the way down to P15, so the pace is definitely there for the JPA Racing team. If it wasn't for that incident into the opening lap, maybe we would have seen him fighting at the forefront, who knows, as Brajo is trying to take another racing line. This is really, my apologies, this is a battle for P5, as a Fusion Motorsport driver. Kobe is being put under intense pressure by the 2 teammates from XL Motorsport just behind, run inside of turn number 5. Not having it quite yet. Different racing lines are being applied here. Talking about the line, slightly drying out in parts, but way too soon to go for plan B. That would be such a big gamble that we've seen it completely fail for some of the drivers yesterday, as the track was going from dry to slightly more practical for slick tires. But towards the end of the day, slick compounds were back on track, but for just a couple of races. That won't be the case here for now, at least. 1.5 seconds still for the lead.
I thought I heard a tyre squeal there out of my left ear. I'm looking out the window. I can't see anything that may have caused a tyre squeal to have occurred, so clearly I'm hearing things. There's a look at your virtual championship. Of course, George House, we were just talking about that. He's got the 100 points. Mathis Brajo stepping up into second in the standings ahead of Ferguson. Di Pietrantonio currently sitting in P4 ahead of Kobe, and Newstead now unfortunately dropping to 6th in the standings as he's dropped down the order. But like I say, he's recovering back. He's now just outside the top 10 here. Guillaume is in P11 right now, 10 seconds behind the race leader, and he is closing that gap up by quite some way. But time very quickly running out. We are on lap number 9 of 13. Action happening here, though. This is all kicking off throughout the field. We are seeing the drivers battling very nicely, and there you can see Newstead just trying to take these positions left, right and centre through the field, recovering back nicely. But eyes will focus on the battles further down in the order, because there again you're seeing the likes of Mathis Brajo, who's holding on to this one. Here's a replay of an overtake happening, and well, there was that Ilias. Well, no, I didn't want to come into the pit lane. You made me come into the pit lane, but there we go. Who was that struggled? That looked like it was one of the Eichmanns. Was that Milan Baku?
No, I think it was. I saw another driver actually telling down the order. And,
side by side for this one, and that's Alex Riley going down the inside of Christian Kobe. And now you've got the likes of Colby Patterson trying to get involved as well, but no, he can't get through. He stays behind. So Riley gets through. Kobe in the middle of them. He's going to try and dive it back down the inside. Riley gets the switchback, the up and under, nicely done. Here comes Patterson to the inside. Has he got the waff to get through? The answer is no. And look at that for Christian Kobe. Manages to hold on to at least one of those positions there. Overtakes have been happening thick and fast throughout this field as this battle still rages on. And with Patterson not able to find his way through just yet. And with that, it's allowing, guess who? George Clark and the likes of Austin Newstead to be able to close in on this battle. That is not done just yet. Yeah, I
didn't get to see the driver who missed the racing line on the outside of turn number 8 with that battle with Austin Newstead. We'll get back to that in the highlights potentially. But yeah, Austin, the 4-6, climbing through the ranks. At some point, he was all the way down in 25th position. So he would have certainly preferred to fight at the forefront for that win in the final, but the pace has been definitely there all weekend, which is always good signs and things to learn from considering the rest of the season and looking at how quick he has been through that field and climbing position after position. It would have certainly be up there, but I guess the satisfaction will be that it would have been a fun race for him to be into. You know, it's always certainly more entertaining for the drivers to have a bit of a fight and putting out some overtaking maneuvers than stay in the lead, even though that lead would mean victory. In the case for Josh House, 2 seconds advantage on Daniel Ferguson. A relatively steady and quiet race for Josh House if it wasn't for the first few corners where he took that lead from pole position and kept it steadily. But still, it doesn't mean that you get to just sleep on your laurels. It doesn't mean that you don't need to keep your head down just to in order to see the checkered flag. Avoid the mistake in those slippery conditions still, as we went from 2 seconds to, and still the same. Josh House is really controlling that final.
It has now started to rain once again here in Cremona. It's very fine, but it is raining. We did expect it to come through, which again, good news for the other drivers, because they know, okay, it's definitely going to be wet now. We don't need to worry about the track drying at any point. So that really keeps the board wide open then for everyone as we are nearing the end of this race. Last lap board will be coming out this time to the man who's currently going around turn 8, tantalizingly close to the edge, and that massive muddy puddle right off the circuit. You do not want to hit that puddle, because that will be a game over move if you do that. George House, though, there he is, cool, calm and collected. No real dramas over the weekend. Of course, he's had some really strong results. Has George House, like I say, finished P2 in that Super earlier on this weekend. He finished P4 in the event a week ago, the IAME Open Games. This time around, though, he's looking for that P1 as he starts the last lap of this race. Guillaume, he's had no drama. Look at him go here. Really, really controlled.
Controlled indeed. That's the name of the game for George House. He was the leader at the end of the qualifying heat. Once again, the leader after the super heat with 1 win to his name. 25 points each time. The pole position, the race in the lead from start to finish. This is a Grand Slam, as they would say in Formula One, applied with beautiful fashion here in Cremona for the opening round of this year's IAME Euro Series. George House in the house for the mini final in northern Italy. 2.2 seconds from Daniel Ferguson. He's been absolutely unshaken throughout the course of that final, the XL Motorsport driver, and is gonna leave Italy with the maximum points in the bag before the second round in Zuera, Spain in the month of May. But certainly a brilliant demonstration of skills and fine-tuning for George House and his XL Motorsport team from the UAE. So beautiful job. Well done all throughout the weekend. Victory at the end of this mini final for Josh House. Daniel Ferguson picking up the second place, and Mathis Brajo, the pole sitter overall at the beginning of the weekend, having to make do with that third place finish. Still the podium for Mathis Brajo, who would have hoped for better certainly, but he will have 3 other occasions to take his revenge and come back stronger. But strong demonstration nevertheless from Mathis Brajo and the Spirit Racing team.
Can anyone bring the house down? Well, in Cremona, the answer to that is no. George House claims that win by 2.2 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. A commanding and controlled drive as they make their way back into Parc Fermé. The race isn't over just yet, though, because they have to head to the weighbridge. They have to get checked over. But those 3 drivers will be heading straight to the podium. Do not go anywhere. Those podium presentations taking place in the next few minutes for the mini category. There is your full classification at the end of that one. George House and Daniel Ferguson, Mathis Brajo in P1, Lorenzo Di Pietrantonio just missing out on a podium but gaining 2 places, and now sitting 4th in the standings. Christian Kobe and Alex Riley. George Clark, Austin Newstead recovered back to 8th place. It's a good result, but it's not the result he was hoping for ahead of Abraham Shelvis. Harry Williams rounding out the top 10. A shaky race there, but a controlled one for this young man, George House, and your current championship leader, heading to Zuera in Spain in May. He will be the man to beat. Thumbs up for House. Number 1 for House. And like we say, can anyone bring the house down?
Yeah, that's a question, and he will need certainly more than one challenger to try to shake up this young man for the upcoming races. As part of this year's championship, you could see briefly James Geidel, the president of the RGMMC group, picking up the drivers on their way to the podium ceremony that will be following shortly after this final. So don't go anywhere. We're going to take a short break, waiting for the drivers to make their way to the podium. They will be celebrated straight after the final. This will be the same for the juniors and the seniors. Slight change to the procedures of past seasons in order for you guys to celebrate with us the achievement of the top 3 drivers in each class. Outside of the top 10, just waiting for the drivers and Anton Jordan to have you on the podium as well. Josh House, Daniel Ferguson and Mathis Brajo will be stepping up. Lorenzo Di Pietrantonio just missed out on the podium, but still made it to P4 from Christian Kobe, Alex Reilly, Josh Clark, Austin Newstead. P8 finish for Austin from Fusion Motorsport. What a race still. Too bad for the spin, too bad for the incident, as we're going to see that again into the replay of those X30 13 laps. Good start from pole position on the inside from Josh House, entering turn 1 and 2. And then that double spin on the curb of turn number 2 for Austin Newstead, and another driver as well in the mix, leading to that big coming together involving a pile of drivers. Most of them were able to keep going, some others not, like the likes of Mason Brooks, and later on one Goldschlag as well. But here's the 4-6 of Austin Newstead, unfortunately stuck into the grass. He was able to get going, just like the 419 with him as well, Alexander Frickberg, but that would mean the race done and dusted pretty much, as some of them would make their way back to the Parc Fermé at a very early stage. Behind Josh House, battles were aplenty. That little moment in turn number 8 when Austin Newstead was making his way past another opponent, slightly forcing him offline. He had no chance nor the choice to go onto the entry of the pit lane before cutting the grass. But the 406 Newstead was really fighting his way through the brilliant pace demonstrated by the British driver, 25th at some point into the ranking, all the way up to P8. While in the meantime, the 417 of Alex Reilly was battling his way along with Josh Clark, Austin Newstead further back, and Christian Kobe as well. The 422 would eventually finish slightly further down the classification. Fortunately, Colby Pattinson, indeed, we missed that in the later stages of that final, but Pattinson is nowhere to be seen, unfortunately, as a result potentially of an incident. That's a good question, but Pattinson was at some point fighting for a potential top 5 finish, and is nowhere to be seen, unfortunately, joining the likes of Behofer, Haile Sami and Goldschlag, as well as Mason Brooks in the driver that didn't make the cut at the end of this final. Won in beautiful fashion by Josh House and Excel Motorsport with a 2.2 second advantage on Daniel Ferguson and Mathis Brajo. Quickly, the rest of the classification. We had outside the top 10 Charles Ural from Charles Clos, Aurelio Longitano, Milan Beku, Denver Boss, Mason Hybert, Theo Pelfrené, Kim Minjare, Henry King, Max Cruz in P20 position. Then we had Stanislas Jakob, Baptiste Augustin, Luis Paternot, Johnson Stewart, as well as Milo Cornel, Sasha Miras, Nahil Padovanni, Ole Sorley, Mattis Nobbs, Andy Stewart, and Alexander Frickberg. The Swedish driver from Heidi Motorsport being the last one to see the checkered flag. And for those who didn't make it to the finish line, Mason Brooks, Wayne Goldschlag, Eilers Sami, Aaron Behofer, and Colby Pattinson, as we said, being cut in the middle of an incident in the later stages of the race by the look of it. Unfortunately for those, that will mean coming back even stronger for round 2 of the IAME Euro Series that will be taking place on the Circuito Internacional Zuera, where we were forced to go having the IAME Warriors final of last season. We're supposed to go to the Cartodromo Valencia. We will go this year for the pinnacle event of the IAME International season, but due to a difficult context outside of Wheel, we were forced at the last minute to change location. You might remember that very clearly a few months ago. But Zuera will be back as well in the calendar in a couple of weeks' time in the month of May. waiting for the drivers to make their way on the podium, and a lot of people surrounding on the beautiful track of Cremona, waiting for the next race, the final race of the junior category. Then we're going to have the seniors. In just a moment, you can see that the mechanics are already waiting onto the bridge, and you might be able to hear in the corner of your screen the podium ceremony is about to start with Anthony Jordan waiting for the drivers to make their way up to that top 3 positions. The marshals are waiting as well onto the track. And without your passion and dedication, ladies and gentlemen, there would be no motorsport. And as always, we like to thank as many times as we can the Orange Army for their dedication, their presence, and their courage in sometimes what is very difficult conditions. And Anthony Jordan is already down there at the podium. The word is to you.
Well, thank you very much, Guillaume. We are indeed ready for the podium presentations for Mini X30 here for round 1 of the IAME Euro Series. And starting with 3rd position, please welcome for Fusion Motorsport representing Italy, Lorenzo De Pietrantonio. In 2nd position, also representing Fusion Motorsport and the United Kingdom, it's Daniel Ferguson. And your race winner for XL Motorsport and the United Kingdom, your new championship leader, it's George House. And please welcome to receive the team's trophy as well, XL Motorsport. We will now listen to the national anthem of the United Kingdom. Give it up, ladies and gentlemen, for your top 3 in Mini X30. We would now like to welcome onto the podium James Gardner to present the winner's trophy. And firstly, to 3rd position, Lorenzo De Pietrantonio. To 2nd position, Daniel Ferguson. And your race winner for round 1 of the IAME Euro Series is George House. And the team's trophy, of course, heading to XL Motorsport. What a fabulous day for them. Drivers, hold those trophies nice and high up in the air. Lift them above your heads. There we go. Big smiles. And if we could get then all 3 drivers on the top step of the podium as well. So, yeah, Lorenzo, if you jump up, everyone on the top step. Got a Callum, you help them up there. Squeeze them all up. You can join them as well. Perfect. One nice big smile then. And a great end to their racing in the rain here, of course, in Cremona. But a brilliant end for them. One big round of applause for your Mini X30 finalists. Well, I'll come in there now and we'll have a quick chat with our race winner for this one, George House. I'll try and squeeze the microphone away from that one. George, I'll come up here. Come a bit closer, I don't bite. George, congratulations. Well done. That's exactly what you needed. A tough weekend, though. The racing conditions were not favourable, were they?
No, it was really wet. But yeah, it was good.
It was good, wasn't it? Now, this is only the first round of 4. You're leading the championship now with 100 points. You've got a nice score there. Are you going to keep that momentum up for the rest of the season?
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. Perfect stuff. Are you happy with the team's performance as well? I can remember Callum's behind you, so say nice things.
100%.
Good stuff. Well, congratulations. Well done. Once again, ladies and gents, give it up for XL Motorsport and George House. Well, perfect. Plenty more races to go. Guillaume, back over to you. We've got junior and senior coming up next.
Thank you very much, Anthony. Yes, indeed. Congratulations to the top 3 drivers once again of the mini category, and a change that you have seen with Lorenzo Di Pietrantonio being promoted to P3 after a penalty got picked up by Mathis Brajo. Quite unfortunate turn of event post-race for the Spirit Racing driver that will come back stronger for round 2 of the IAME Euro Series. Great success for Josh House and Daniel Ferguson. Excel Fusion Motorsport on the podium. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen, because we have the junior final coming up next. It's supposed to start at 2 o'clock. We're running slightly behind the schedule, but no, don't worry at all, as the 14 laps will be going anytime soon. Now, as we're waiting for the drivers to make their way onto the track, the junior first and the senior next. And as for the mini class, the podium ceremony will be taking place just after each of those finals. And you can see in the middle of the screen, it was James Guidol actually having a bit of a track run, shall I say, to make sure to get the drivers in time, because as you might have noticed during yesterday's qualifying heats, the run between the Parc Fermé of the Cremona track and the building where we find ourselves and where the podium is quite significant here in Cremona. A long way to walk, a long way to pedal, and a long way to drive. Now, here comes the next session, the next final. X30 Junior, the 12 between 14 years of age competitors with a total of 47 entries representing 17 nationalities are up next for a final that will be long of 14 laps to go around the Cremona circuit. X30 Junior, which has produced a lot of battles throughout the course of that weekend, being powered by 125cc power units, an output of about 21 horsepower, minimum weight, including the driver of 145 kilos for that class. The second best and the second most crowded class that we have usually in the IAME Euro Series, as the drivers will make their way onto the track in no time for the usual parade of the competitors. 36 out of them, the 36 best competitors that we've had throughout the course of that weekend, using the same tires as for the senior category, the dry tires, the MJ, and the tire allocation being 2 sets of dry, 2 sets of wets. I don't think that they will need the dry this time around. Once again, as you can see, the track is still very much wet and slippery in parts, so wet tires from MG on the wagons on the competitors, making their way onto the start-finish straight, where they will line themselves up. The time for us to go around the grid and the 36 names of the competitors in the junior category, with Relic Graham and GC Phillips leading the way for Fusion Motorsport. We've had 2 Fusion drivers on the podium in the mini class. We've had 3 of them leading the pack on the starting grid of that junior category. The British team, as always, one of the forces to be reckoned with for many seasons in the IAME X30 races on both sides of La Manche, both in Great Britain and in Europe.
Certainly so. Well, those drivers making their way to their grid slots. Let's have a look at the driver standings. It's a dead heat for the 2 young Britons, Riley Cranham and Jesse Phillips for Fusion Motorsport. Both of them on 47 points ahead of Belgian Sid de Rademaker, also for Fusion Motorsport. Dan Alleman is the next real contender for the Spirit Racing team. 32 points behind the rest. Louis Brazaret for France, Archie Owen for the BMR Restart team, Elvis Karkauskas from Mole Racing, Didier Kreeft, Matteo Melis and Henry Carter round out the rest of the top 10. But like you say, it all falls down to those 2 Brits, Riley Cranham and Jesse Phillips, who are 1-2 on the grid for this one, 1-2 in those championship standings at the end of those qualifying heats and finals. Well, carts are in position at the front. Drivers heading to position now. Last few checks being made in terms of tyre pressures and getting those trolleys out of the way. That's the fastest I've seen many of those mechanics run in my life. But they're all getting themselves sorted out here. Right, we're moments away from kickstarting this one. Like we say, all the way throughout these weekends, it's been a very up and down weekend with the weather conditions. Now that it's starting to relatively dry, that rain has kind of stopped falling now. So again, it brings us into the little bit of the unknown, whether or not it will go half dry, half wet. We just don't know. But if it comes to the senior race and it gets dry, that's going to be a bold call to go for slick tyres. You know that they're thinking of it because they've got the slick tyres on the karts there. They're not just confirming wets. They're thinking, let's have the slicks ready just in case.
You know what I would like to see? A race of mechanics onto the track with their own trolley like they're doing right now. That would be interesting to see, you know, depending on the results of the drivers. You would line them up in the same order as their own drivers, and let's see who actually goes fastest around the lap of Cremona. Just a little joke on the side. Now, the competitors of the junior final lining themselves up as we're going to go around the grid. We're a couple of minutes away from the start of that second final on schedule today. Watch out for this young man, Riley Cranham from Great Britain, wearing proudly the Fusion Motorsport colors. Riley has been one of the names to keep an eye on all throughout the weekend, and once again he's proving from pole position that he's the one to beat, having picked up P1 and 2 second places throughout the course of his qualifying heats, having won one of the 2 super heat and picking up as well the 25 points that come with it, leading the classification on the way to the final. There will be 50 points up for grab for anyone who steps on the top position of the podium at the end of this race. Slightly longer than for the mini, 14 laps to go through, but Cranham, he in talk with Martin Bean, the race director of the IAME Euro Series, will have one more driver to pay attention to because there's more than one contender who can make a difference in this race.
He certainly can, and I'm sure he'll be having a chat with many of the drivers on the front of that grid, because one more driver who could certainly shake things up in this one is Jesse Phillips, starting alongside on that front row. Third place in the Superheat earlier on. Little bit of work ahead of him in this final. Granted, he is starting on the outside. He's got those wet tyres on. He's primed and ready. He's hyping himself up. And I can imagine probably want to talk about maybe what's the weather looking like? Is it still going to hold? Is it going to get a little bit more wet? We just don't know. Good results for him over the course of this weekend as well. Like I say, third in that Superheat. Qualified third overall. Also 2 qualifying heat wins and a P3. He's started pretty much everything on the front row over the course of this weekend, including this final. So he's got a really strong starting position. There's a little further down on the order, the number 20, the Lithuanian Elvis Krakauskis. But there on your screen is Stig the Rademacher, who currently sits third in the championship, starting this race in P3 after finishing his Superheat second place earlier on. A really strong performance for Stig the Rademacher, and again over the course of this one, 9th in qualifying, 1 qualifying heat win. He's never been outside the top 5, a P4 and a P3 in those races. So again, another strong contender who starts on the inside of row number 2. And I always say that's kind of my second best starting position is third place, because you've got that inside line and everything like that. Primed and ready to go. The Frenchman, Louis Brasret, who dominated in that Superheat earlier on, claiming the other Superheat win. He's happy. He's ready to go for this one. And that's a couple of wins he's had over the course of this weekend. Took a qualifying heat win as well. Never been below the top 10, 5th and 7th in his previous races after qualifying 6th overall. Really strong performance. And again, another driver who could be a thorn in the side of the Brits in the front row.
Representing the interest of Victory Lane, the team of Nico and Victor Martins as well. Louis Brasret will be starting on the outside line of row number 2. Watch out for this young man. Dan Halleman, P5 on the starting grid from Switzerland, representing Spirit Racing. Dan Halleman, who has always been one to watch. A victory, a second place from P4 in qualifying during the qualifying heats. Second of his super heat this morning. Finds himself on the inside coming to turn number 1. Dan Halleman, who has been one of the fastest in qualifying earlier, and certainly one to watch as always. Q4 in qualifying on Friday, as the former winner of the RGMMC races in the past as well, ready to be victorious once again here in Cremona. Archie Owen, number 14 from Great Britain, by his side on the position number 6. Archie Owen was picking up a win and a second place in his qualifying heats after qualifying 7th on during the Friday's qualifying practice. Ross Hampton, the master of the grids of the RGMMC group, giving out the signal. We are into the last minute of waiting, the quiet before the storm, as I like to call it, for the drivers to get themselves into their own bubble of consultation. Just one last mechanic, just giving the last handshake, the last piece of advice before the drivers are led to themselves with their thoughts, with their strategy, sometimes trying to create a bit of a void in order not to be distracted by any external components. But as you can see here with the BMR driver a little bit further back, this is Archie Howen with his mechanic by his side until the very last second.
Well, let's see what happens then. Moments away from this one. He's going to have to hand start this one. Apparently, button don't work, but he gets it fired up. Great work there from the BMR team, and he gets their pilots going in this final as the engines roar into life here at Cremona. Let's fire through that full starting lineup. Riley Cranham and Jesse Phillips lock out row number 1 for the United Kingdom here in Italy. Sid de Rademacher and Louis Rosé for Belgium and France go from row 2 with Dan Alleman of Switzerland and Archie Owen from the United Kingdom on row number 3. Row 4 sees Elvis Krakowskis of Lithuania, Matteo Melis, the home man for Italy, starting on row number 4. Didier Krieft and Henry Carter go from row 5 and they round out the top 10. Max Yule and Denny Babacek, they round out the top 12 on row number 6, and is closely followed by Max Endicott and Noah Grenier. Finlay Lines and Nilis Malik round out row 8, with the middle half of the field being Daniel Oliver and Bruno Greeling.
They're followed on row number 10 by David Steffen and Gabriel Benecki. Row 11, Ilan Yerkan and Jakob Bachle. Charlie Johnson and Nicolas Freak on row number 12. Row number 13, Elias Ebersdoble and Andrea Galimberti. Row number 14, Gabriel Canal and Freddy Wood. Row number 15, Romeo Melo and Aurelio Mustinelli. And at the back end of that grid of the junior class, Ludwig Gravix and Suzuki Maeda, row number 16. Row 17, Benjamin Westwood and Lorenzo Villao. And then Peter Sarkisian and Max Lacroix at the back end of that grid. 14 laps to go through. We do have everybody on board, and someone has lost.
That's a chain guard.
A chain guard indeed, and that's no good onto the track, but the officials were.
And that's on the start-finish line, and whoever's that's come off, that will be a technical flag. We have no idea who that's come off, so it's going to be a case of spot the kart with no chain cover on, because, well, we need to find out who that came off, because, like you say, that's going to be final over before it even started. And let's have a look who that possibly came off. We slow it down. I'm looking for something to go. Okay, so it's the MDC kart that it's come off. I can just see a number. Was that the 66? I don't know. I'm going to need to figure that one out of who that could have been. I couldn't quite see the number. Possibly could have been 60. Maybe Daniel Oliver. I don't know. But that's definitely come off, and that is very unfortunate. And I'm just trying to think, which car that possibly could have been. But never mind, we'll look about that later on, because it is final time. They are making their way into the tram lines. Here we go. Round 1, IAME Euro Series Junior X30 is go. Into the tram lines and in towards turn number 1. It's side by side with the two teammates, but Cranham gets the whole shot. And keep an eye on Phillips as he tries to sweep back through. It's not gone well for him this time, though. He has gone back into round P4, P5. Rest of the field goes through. There's a little bit of a yellow, but everyone gets through relatively cleanly. But crucially, look at this one for the victory lane car, Louis Rosé. He's got himself through nicely into second place as he pushes his way through the field. There, Dan Alleman, there into third place. The BMR driver has pushed himself up as well. Archie Owen in a good position, but for two drivers, they are out of the race. It's a Pantano and a Jamie Green kart that goes no further, and that is Freddie Wood and Benjamin Westwood, both out of contention, but I think both still in the race. But crucially at the front there, Riley Cranham has broken away nicely. Yeah,
beautifully done indeed. And I do think that for Benjamin Westwood, that's another DNF. He had the DNF earlier in the super heat, if I'm not mistaken. And we might need to see that again, but two drivers got tangled a little bit in turn number 1. I do wonder if those two were the same that we've just seen getting off the track at turn number 5. A little bit of replay. Oh, and a 166. Is that one of the drivers from Euro Karting?
Is that Noah Grenier? Noah Grenier.
Unfortunately being spun around as a result of a contact. Was it a driver mistake? We cut that a little bit short. We'll see that afterwards, but Noah Grenier tumbling down the order, I'm afraid, joining the likes of Freddie Wood and Benjamin Westwood, still on track, but light years are behind the rest of the field. Noah Grenier is about to get caught actually by the two drivers at the back end of that grid. Up in the lead, Graham from pole position, 1.4 seconds already. A clean opening lap for the British driver, with Louis Bazire just up in second place from Dan Halleman. Jesse Phillips, unfortunately, didn't have the best of getaway from second to fourth at the moment from Owen Kreeft. Krasowska still P7 from Carter, Yule, Malik. Raw top 10 at the moment.
Henry Carter getting the moves done there, moving down the inside and past Kurakalskis, moving himself up into 7th place. He is on a charge now, is Carter, and that's 3 places he's gained in this race. The same can be said for Nilas Malik, who's up 6 places. Elias Ebersdobler as well is up 12 places, just outside the top 10. As again, big hit at that curb through turn number 1 for Archie Owen, trying to find a way past Jesse Phillips, but not managing to find the way through just yet. Bazare sets the fastest lap of the race now. The Frenchman in 2nd place is trying to hunt down Riley Cranham in the lead. However, Cranham is running faster on this lap, was 2/10 faster. He set a personal best. Sector 1 as down the inside. Didier Kreeft, another move down the inside. Henry Carter out of nowhere. Well, he sent that overtake from Spain. It landed in Italy. That was a fantastic run as he moves himself up 2 places into P5.
Yeah, that's what we'd like to see from Henry Carter. Beautifully made up to P5. Now the next one will be Jesse Phillips. Under the pressure of both D. Kreeft and Krasowska, Richie Owen in the middle. Certainly they must be feeling furious about that surprise that caught them both.
Technical flag going out to the number 60 MDC Daniel Oliver. We were right, it was him who'd lost the chain guard, and that is a big shame. His final is over.
In the meantime, a little bit of tussle between the 63 and DT Kreeft. The Dutchman is getting ahead once again of Carter. That was outside of turn number 4. Under the pressure of Archie Owen and number 14 just behind. Those 3 drivers. Very, very tight train of 3. And Jesse Phillips not aware of what's happening just behind him in P4, entering turn number 8 right now. Then the other 3, Kreeft, Carter, Owen. Further back we have Krasowska, the number 20, that got denied a victory yesterday in his qualifying heat due to a penalty of 5 seconds. That gave the win to Louis Bazire. He's currently in 2nd place of that final. And this Krasowska certainly willing to climb the field as much as he can. As further back, there's a couple of tussle, a little contact here and there between some of the competitors. 75 in the mix out there. This is Max Yule with Malik and Melis just surrounding him on the last corner, clipping the curb. Not too much, because this part where you see a lot of mud is still very slippery. As we get another lap in the bag, lap number 5 that is, as you can see confirmation of the technical flag for Daniel Oliver, shall I say, down in 22nd place. Due to that chain cover that went off on the warmer lap. That means that he has 3 laps maximum to get back into the pits.
Replay here, and this is earlier on in the race. Start, and Noah Grenier. Oh, he just gets a little helping hand there from Stig de Rademaker of Fusion Motorsports. And that is just how close it was. You know, you had cars piled into each other. I'm sure no intention was meant there, and it was just an unfortunate incident. All meanwhile, we're on lap 5 of this 14-lap race. Cranham still leads, 1.1 second ahead of Louis Bazare. Dan Alleman still in 3rd place. Jesse Phillips into P4. What does that mean for the championship standings? Because they were joint, were Cranham and Phillips earlier on. There you see Cranham now with 97. Jesse Phillips with the 81. Bazare's put himself up to 3rd now with 73. So this position is good, but another position change could help him out just that little bit more. Extra points mean prizes on this one. Remember, there is an extra point, I think, for the fastest lap in these finals as well, which means he gets an extra 1 point because he's got that fastest lap of a 105.716 for the Frenchman in 2nd place. Here, though, the battle is raging. Dan Alleman and Jesse Phillips, 3rd place. The last spot on the podium is go. And these two here are lying astern, 2 very talented drivers who have raced each other for some time now through the mini category, stepping up into the junior category now as well. And these two, I'm sure, will go to the very end of this one, fighting to the bitter end. But Alleman in control of this one, and he is on that 3rd place spot right now. But Phillips is a determined young man and is going to go for the move straight away. He's not going to waste any time. He's going to look down the inside at turn number 1 and takes the position. And Dan Aleman now needs to really think what he wants to do. Does he want to immediately fight back? And I think the answer to that is yes, because he looked for a tighter line there down the inside of turn number 3 and 4. Thinks against it, slots back behind.
Yeah, the first attempt that didn't stick just this time around. He's going to try that again. Certainly Dan Aleman into the chicane of 6 and 7. All the way down to turn number 8. A quick look over the shoulder for Dan Aleman to see where DT Kreeft might be. Diving into the braking zone of that hairpin. Trying to get as close as possible to give a little bit of a help to his teammate from Fusion. Jesse Phillips just in front of Dan Aleman. Stig de Rademacher in the meantime started third, currently 15, 12 places lost. That's quite unfortunate that Stig had such a difficult start to his final, because he was not supposed to be where he was when he actually hit his fellow countryman Noah Grenier, sending the Euro karting driver into a spin. That difficult start to his final, leading him to try to try different things in the middle of the pack, leading to some unfortunate turn of events. And as a result, he's still down in P15. And at this rate, at this pace, I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel as for now for Stig de Rademacher. As the fastest lap in this race is put by Riley Cranham, still in the lead, 1 full second in front of Louis Bazire. The question is now, as we are on to lap number 8, halfway through that final, does the pace still is on the side of Louis Bazire? Does the Frenchman has what it takes to try to decrease that gap and get a good attack on Riley Cranham for the win?
Now that is Didier Kreeft getting past Dan Aleman, and Didier Kreeft saying to him, right, let's go, let's catch up. However, Henry Carter's got another idea, and the back of Aleman's car rotates at turn number 11, and he tumbles down the order. He will not be happy with that because, well, yeah, Carter was straight into the rear bumper there at turn number 11. And, well, Carter gets through into P5, and that must be devastating for Aleman because he crosses the line now in P11.
Yeah, that's quite unfortunate. We might need to see that again, but that was clear like water. Unfortunately, as Aleman was pushed into a spin by Carter, trying to make his way around the inside of the Swiss driver into that turn number 11. We've seen a lot of incidents and a lot of touching into this last segment of the track. Here's a look back at what happened. Then you have Aleman trying his bit on the 31.
You know what?
The back end, boom.
It was a mixture there. It was, it clipped the inside curb that lifted the rear up. Then he had the contact in the back. And there it just completely lifted the rear up. No grip there whatsoever. And as soon as he tried to put the power down, it was just going to go full 360.
Yeah, I don't think it was some sort of intentional from Henry Carter now into P5. He might have been surprised by, indeed, Dan Aleman clipping that curb and dropping a bit of momentum. And we'll see what will come out of that particular action. It's not done to us to make any judgment, as we are into lap number 9 and 1.1 seconds still. The good news is for Riley Cranham, he's able to keep it steady and control that race and the gap on Louis Bazire. But for the Frenchman, not quite able to decrease that gap as much as he would like, as Cranham is putting another fastest lap of the race.
And that is Krakowskis and Ebersdobler from 9th and 10th on the grid. They have tumbled down the order as well. They've clearly come together. A lot of mud on the side of that now, of that number 20 Krakowskis machine. And they've both gone off the track. That was at turns 3 and 4, I believe, on the lap. So that's a real shaky moment for them. And not something you want to see in the middle of your final.
No, definitely not. And I'm sure that the mechanics by the sideline will be certainly most disappointed, not only for the driver's faith and bad luck in this race, but also for all the mud that they're going to have to clean afterwards. As we see that again, the 23 clipping the curb. A little bit of a contact there as a result of what was going to happen at turn number 4.
Oh, they got hooked. He hooked his front nose cone in the rear wheel there, and they just dragged them both off. And oh my, I do not want to be the person who's got to clean that card after this.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Rallycross finals I got to commentate last year, the Motorsport Games. But I can tell you that talking about mud, there was a lot of that there as well. But it's not what those drivers are supposed to do. So it happens. There's been a lot of rain, certainly here in Cremona. leading to those mud traps and standing water all over the track, as you can see them clearly. As in the meantime, the gap has been extended by Cranham in the lead, as we are here on board with Jesse Phillips and Didier Kreeft, split by 7/10 of a second. So not only Jesse is not quite able to catch up with Louis Bazire in second, but he sees his teammate coming back to him. There's going to be an interesting, a little bit of a battle coming to the last few laps.
Certainly could be. There's your race leader. There's second place. There, third and fourth, just pushing their way through. Phillips and Kreeft, the last spot on the podium, with Didier Kreeft looking mighty, mighty strong throughout the order. But you can see the front pack very open, very spread out. There are battles happening thick and fast throughout the field as well. Don't get me wrong, we've still got 35 of the original 36 runners in this race. Only the one retirement of Daniel Oliver, purely because of that chain guard. So everyone else still running. There's a look at the championship standings. Cranham still with the 98, as he's now got the fastest lap of the race, so he's helping himself out nicely with that extra championship point. Phillips still second, Louis Bazire still there, but Didier Kreeft might have something to say about that last spot on the podium, because, like I say, that gap coming down ever more. There is your race leader, though, Riley Cranham, and this is looking lights to flag finish for him. A very controlled and demanding race for him. No dramas whatsoever. Shaky start for the field, and it always has been throughout this weekend, but he has delivered some really good results. The same as this young man here, the Frenchman, Louis Bazire. He's delivered exactly what he needed to do. He was on the outside of row number 2. He started P4. He gained those 2 places. He's pushed his way up nicely through the order, and he's looking to finish this weekend in 3rd in the points standings. And now it's all kicking off behind as well, because the points updates. Also, Phillips still there in 2nd place, but the battles still rage on. Now Didier Kreeft and Jesse Phillips separated by half a second. There they are in the background. That continues to kind of squeak down a little bit. Carter as well is closing in. He's just gone purple in sector 1. But Cranham here, Guillaume, to the last lap, just has delivered some superb racing throughout this one. He's looked pretty much unstoppable here at this point of this weekend.
Absolutely unstoppable. He's proving once again what sort of wood is made of, entering what will be the last lap. Riley Cranham for Fusion Motorsport, leading the charge for the British team. Riley Cranham, that we've seen last year, doing wonders already in the IAME Euro Series, and he finished in 4th place overall, with his best result standing on the podium in Franciacorta, you might remember. And he was one of the protagonists, winning super heats and winning qualifying heats and leading classifications throughout last season. 4th last year, a contender certainly for the title this time around in 2025. And he's proving that to us today in Cremona for the opening of the championship. A commanding drive, a steady racing line, a lot of maturity in driving skills. That display by Riley Cranham, a little dance onto the curb for the show, for the public surrounding the track here, but is about to conclude what has been a very, very steadily controlled race.
It certainly has. It was a young Briton in the minis. It will be Britain in the juniors. To the lines. He knows he's done it. Number 1 for Riley Cranham across the line. A fabulous end to his race. He claims the championship lead. He loses out on that extra fastest lap point. That was taken away by Henry Carter in the end, that finishes in P5. But he still remains the points leader ahead of his teammate Jesse Phillips, heading to Zuera for round 2. But right now here in Italy, Riley Cranham delivers as he nurses that cart back to Parc Ferme. But remember, the race isn't over yet. Scrutineering, technical checks, everything like that has to be done. But for right now, Riley Cranham stands on that number 1 spot in Italy.
What a beautiful performance. Another 2 drivers from Fusion Motorsport on the podium for the opener of the IAME Euro Series. Is the classification in full. Riley Cranham, the winner in Cremona, from Louis Bazire, picking up a well-deserved 2nd place for the Frenchman in front of Jesse Phillips. Didier Kreeft in P4, climbing 5 places up to the top 4. From Henry Carter, Archie Owen, Ninas Malik, Matteo Melis, Stig the Radar Marker, Max and Decot finish up in top 10. And we have Dan Harleman and already a 5-second penalty for Milas Malik, unfortunately dropping to P13. Dan Harleman P10, as we said, Gabriel Benecki P11 from Jacob Bachle, Milas Malik down in 13 from Max Yule, and Andrea Galimberti P15.
Well, there he is, Riley Cranham on your screen. Solid drive. And yes, that's it. Job done for this round here as we'll head to Zuera in the deserts as is it starting to rain again? Yes, it is. It is indeed, Guillaume. It is raining quite a significant amount as well. So the seniors know what they're going to be doing. They're going to be having a wet race, but the juniors, they're done and dusted now as they'll be heading to the podium, of course, in the next couple of minutes. So if anyone here is wanting to get involved in that one, do stick around and head to that podium. You're not going to want to miss it. Of course, making sure they're all above board. Remember, they have got a minimum weight. Is he all good? Yes, of course he is. He's absolutely fine. And he can now celebrate with his mechanic. And he'll be there as well to congratulate with him and help him lift that cart up onto the chassis. There you see Louis Darman just coming into shot. A brilliant end for him. Big smiles on his face. He knows what he's done. He's championship leader. And he knows it. Louis Diamond congratulates him, his mechanic, and, well, all smiles around for the UK team.
Yeah, definitely so. They can be proud of that performance. Here's a look back at how things unfolded during this junior final. First, we had that chain cover that got lost on the way, and unfortunately, it was Daniel Oliver from MDC Racing who would have to come back to the pits due to a mechanical flag. The starting procedure, it was going quite well for Riley Cranham, indeed, from pole position, able to hold on to that lead onto the curb, while Dan Harleman would find himself in a bit of a trouble with Louis Bazire as well by his side. All the drivers trying to find a bit of space into those opening few moments, but two drivers coming together and able to get going again afterwards. Some of the troubles in the early stages of that final. The two Belgian drivers coming together, stick the rudder marker at 11, pushing quite unfortunately for him, Noah Grenier into a spin as run inside a beautiful overtaking maneuver by the 63 of Henry Carter, getting past not one but two drivers at once into turn number 8. Then the battles kept raging through thick and fast and left and right through that field of junior drivers. Once again, Carter battling away with the 31 out there before that contact, slightly unfortunate. That would come slightly later with the number 31 of Didier Kreeft. Kreeft Fusion Motorsport driver would get ahead of Carter onto the curb, and then a beautiful piece of driving on the inside of turn number 4 and 3 and 4 under the close watch of some of the drivers behind, the likes of RGO1 and Matteo Medis as well, as into the last corner of the track here. The battle was raging. Dan Harleman, the number 10, being overtaken by Jesse Phillips, the number 22. At some point, we thought that Dan Harleman was still on course to potentially step on that podium, as the number 31 clipping the curb to get his way past. After Jesse Phillips, it was Didier Kreeft who would impose his low to the young driver from Spirit Racing, gesturing to him to keep on going, and then disaster, unfortunately, when Harleman got clipping that curb into turn number 11. Carter was just behind, could not avoid him. A contact sending the Swiss driver into a spin, unfortunately. That would get him to lose a lot of positions and finish all the way down into the classification in P10 overall. Then that moment into turn number 3 between the 23 and another 20 coming together, unfortunately, as they would get a lot of mud out of the off-track excursion, unfortunately, for those two drivers. Number 23 tumbling down the order, unfortunately, for those two. You had Lies Herbelsdoble, the 23, finishing all the way down to number 18. But in the end, punching the air with joy and satisfaction after a job well done, Riley Cranham, exuberant after what has been a much controlled final. Beautiful piece of driving for the British driver from Fusion Motorsport, putting the British team once again onto the podium. And that's full of points, 50 points worth of victory for Riley Cranham, your first overall leader at the end of the opener of the IAME Euro Series. As we said, the first of 4 rounds that we have for the 2025 season. Here's a look back at the classification as it stands now. Riley Graham, 97 points, 85 for Jesse Phillips. Louis Bazire picking up 3rd place from Stig de Radermaker in front of Didier Kreeft. Archie Owen at 54 equal points. Harry Carter down in 7 from Halleman. Matteo Melis and Elvis Krasuzkas running out the top 10 of the championship before round number 2 in Zuera. The podium is ready. Let's get to it.
Thank you very much, Guillaume. Yes, indeed, after a very frantic final for Junior X30 for round 1 of the IAME Euro Series, we have our top 3, and starting in 3rd position for Fusion Motorsport for the United Kingdom, it's Jesse Phillips. Jesse having a brilliant race at the end of that one, only dropping the 1 spot from his 2nd place starting spot. In 2nd position, representing France and the Victory Lane karting team, it's Louis Bazare. And your race winner for Fusion Motorsport and the United Kingdom, it's Riley Cranham. And please welcome Dan Hazelwood from Fusion Motorsport onto the podium. We will now listen to the national anthem of the United Kingdom. Give it up for your top 3 in Junior X30. We'll now like to welcome James Garnell from RGMMC to present the winner's trophy. And firstly, to 3rd position, Jesse Phillips. To 2nd position, Louis Bazare. And to your race winner, Riley Cranham. And of course, not forgetting the team's trophy heading to Fusion Motorsport. What a fabulous end. Drivers, hold those trophies nice and high up in the air. Lift those above your head. Nice big smiles for the photographers out there. A brilliant end to your 1st round. Of course, we'll head to Zuera in Spain next. And finally, we'd like to ask all 3 of you to jump up on the top step of the podium. Dan, you can jump up there as well. All squeeze in nice and close. Louis, yep, you jump up there as well. Brilliant stuff. Nice big smiles. A fabulous way to end. But as the rain comes falling down, there is 1 more final to go. But before with that, we will head over and we will chat to our race winner, Riley Cranham, who now leaves Italy as championship leader. So, Riley, I'm going to squeeze over there. Sorry, Jesse, if I just squeeze in behind you. Am I going to have to come up there? Yeah, all right, because you're quite tall, actually, for your age. Jesse, great, not Jesse, Riley, sorry. Great weekend for you. That's what you needed. Championship leader at the end of the 1st round. You head to Zuera next. Everything confident and everything well. Tell us, how does that weekend feel for you?
Yeah, it's been a brilliant weekend. It's a good track, very physical track. Obviously, it all worked out in my favour at the end.
Certainly did. And tell us the challenges that you've had to go through over this weekend. You've had the difficult conditions, the dry conditions, the wet conditions that are changing constantly, but you've dealt with it well, and you feel like this pace can be continued over the course of the season.
Yes, definitely. It's been a weird weekend, obviously getting used to the wet track and the dry track. Obviously, I've never been here before, but it all went well.
Excellent. Well, congratulations. Well done. We'll see you there in Zuera for round 2. But for right now, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for your Junior X30. Well, brilliant stuff. 1 more final to go. Guillaume, we'll head back over to you in the box.
Thanks very much, Anthony. Yes, indeed, 1 more final to go. And certainly one that a lot of you out there have been expecting. Now, thanks for tuning in once again on IAMEEuroseries.com, on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Motorsport TV Live for the 3rd and last final, the pinnacle of the opener of the IAME Euro Series, the X30 Senior. Only 36 drivers, 36 golden tickets up for grab. And we got our ticket holders. Ready to go racing, ready to go for battle during 17 laps. The longest race they would have to go through in conditions that are slightly getting worse, actually, even though the rain seems to be slightly reducing. It picked up a little bit a few minutes ago, all for the better of the show, and we do hope that you guys have been appreciating what you've seen all throughout the weekend, starting yesterday with the live stream brought to you by RGMMC, as always, live from the Cartodromo Cremona. The parade of drivers will start in just a moment. Let's get into it. X30 Senior, driver age minimum 14 years old to get into that class, highly competitive. 89 entries entering this weekend, representing 20 nationalities from all 4 corners of the globe. This is the most crowd of all 3 categories, as it's often the case with the X30 Senior class. Some of the specifics of that category: power unit of 125 cc, an output of about 30 horsepower, the most powerful of all 3 classes. For a minimum weight, including driver, of 158 kilograms. Drivers getting onto the track in the order at the end of the qualifying heat and the super heat combined. We're gonna get ourselves onto the points and the stands of things before they go for battle into the final. They will have the wet tires brought to you by MG tires. They have 2 sets of dry, 2 sets of wets, the MG SM2 and SW2. But one of them has been the most used throughout the course of the weekend. A little bit of dry compounds yesterday, but only the wets for today, the final. It has been raining slightly as Anthony Jordan back in the box has been attacked by what looked like an immense bug.
Massive bug just flew in my face, but don't worry, I survived.
Yeah, you did survive, but you threw it to my direction.
I did throw it in your direction, sorry Guillaume.
It's going to pop up at some point in the final, so if you hear screams in the box, don't worry, it's just a big bug.
There we go. Right then, yes, last final of the day, Senior X30. This is what we've all been waiting for. Such a tense moment now as the grid heads out, and it all's going to start with the Italian Danny Caronini on that front row. And he, at this moment, is that current championship leader, last year's series champion, now looking to lead it at the end of this final. But he is joined by Kevin Lantinga for Croc Promotions, who has this weekend been a force to reckon with. I mean, he's been battling his way through these grids, he's been fighting his way to the front, and now he starts this final on the front row of the grid. And he is joined very closely by others as well. Clement Utron and Harrison Mackie on the row just behind him. They're also 3rd and 4th in the championship standings. Riccardo Ferrari, fellow Zanchi Motorsport driver and fellow Italian to Danny Caronini, is 5th in the points ahead of Mateusz van der Kerkhoff. Andrea Barberi as well, another one of the Italians for Zanchi Motorsport, also having a very strong start to the season, currently sitting 7th in the championship standings. The rest of the field line themselves up. Tension starting to rise here, Guillaume, as all of these drivers have delivered brilliant results. Danny Caronini, who starts it on that front row, has really shone over the course of this weekend. Multiple race wins. He won his superheat earlier on. He has taken 3 wins in his qualifying heats after qualifying 2nd overall, and that was behind the driver from Portugal, Max Radic, who would put it on pole position. However, Max does not find himself in a front-running position in this final. He starts P18, does the pole sitter from qualifying. So again, up and down results for the drivers, but crucially, for one man from Italy, Danny Caronini from last year, he starts it on pole position.
You know, I do love stats, and when it comes to Danny Caronini, here's one for you. Last year, he got his hand on the title of the IAME Euro Series without winning any of the 4 rounds, which was a beautiful exploit about consistency and driving skills all throughout the season. It's not just about winning races, it's about accumulating points, it's about being the fastest, the best, and the most consistent on a length of a championship. Danny Caronini did that last year. QD started this season with a win in the bag on home soil for Zanchi Motorsport. That would be a first for him this season, and that would be a strong sign that he's going to be once again the one to beat for the upcoming championship.
That's one way to watch a kart race at a racetrack. Get a beanbag and stick it on top of a lorry and sit on it. Yes, you know we're talking about you. He was reacting there. No, it's what a view we've got for these drivers. There, though, Kevin Lantinga, what can we say about him? Also known as Dave. Permission from his mother to call him that over the course of this one. No, he has been delivering some really, really great results over this one. Really has impressed me. Qualified 26th. Qualifying didn't go his way. It was the qualifying heats where he came back for Lantinga. 13th in his first one. Then he won. Then he came second in in the next two, and then a P4. And then earlier on today, he only went and won his superheat.
Yeah, here are a couple of the team members from the Pantano Racing team watching along. Luna Claire in the middle as well is one of them. And you can see the drops of rain starting to fall surrounding the track. Yeah, the rain is actually picking up here in Cremona. So that's going to make the life of the drivers even more difficult. Further back onto the grid, the 205. From France, Clément Outran, the standard bearer, the leader of Dream Racing, used to be competing for TB Kart in 2024 and VDK Racing before that. Decided to give a shot to the French team of Dream Racing and has been going absolutely well so far this weekend with 3 wins in his qualifying heat. Is going to be starting on the second row of the grid, P3 on the inside line. And talking about the weather, you can see on the rain radar that we find ourselves just beneath a big cloud of rain. And it has been dropping more and more for the past few minutes now here in Cremona. And that should be the case for the next few minutes of that semi-final by the look of it.
Yes, usually when we see the rain radar, we see just blue. That was a big splodge of yellow, which means more intense rain that could be on the way. There, Harrison Mackie, Fusion Motorsport, starting this race in 4th, currently sitting 3rd in the championship standings so far after round number 1. This final could change that very result, but Mackie over the course of this weekend has excelled himself. The Super earlier on, P6 for him, dropped down a little bit in those races, but in the qualifying heats after qualifying 5th, 2 race wins, never been outside the top 5, 2nd, 3rd, and a 4th as well. He knows how to pedal around this circuit. So, he's going to be one to keep an eye on. The same as this Belgian here for Victory Lane, Matthijs van der Kerkhoff. Really strong results for him over the course of this one as well. Pushed himself to the limits on them. He has finished outside the top 10. He qualified 12th. Best result in the qualifying heats was a 3rd. He beat that, though, in his superheat, finishing just 1.5 seconds behind the man who starts just 2 cuts ahead of him, Danny Carinini. So that's going to be a vital one. There, rain falling at now an intense rate, and that might benefit 1 or 2 drivers in this one, Guillaume, because I've seen that some fresh boots have been applied. Now, everyone is on wet tyres. However, this young man here, check out them tyres. Brand new wet tyres on board. Riccardo Ferrari, who starts this one on the 3rd row of the grid. If that rain keeps coming down at quite an intense rate, those fresh boots might help him out massively going into this final. But we are about to find out as the grid clears of mechanics. We are moments away from starting the last final of the weekend, the last final of round 1 of the IAME Euro Series in 2025. The sides of the circuit fill with spectators, mechanics, teams, families, everyone wanting to witness what is set to be the pinnacle of IAME racing in 2025. The air temperature's gone up. The temperature is increasing to 14 degrees. But the track now is getting wetter and wetter, and all these drivers now are just going to have to dig deep and figure out what they're going to do over the next few laps as the engines fire up. They make their way for their formation laps. Let's, Guillaume, take you through that full starting lineup, and it starts with Danny Carinini, last year's IAME Euro Series champion on row number 1, joined by Kevin Lantinga, Clément Outran and Harrison Mackie. On row number 2, Matthijs van der Kerkhoff and Riccardo Ferrari round out row number 3, and they'll have Zach Green and Andy Rattel going from row 4. Ruben Moya, what can we say about him? Terrible qualifying, but he started on row number 5 alongside Christian Biasati. Mathis Michels and Andrea Bamberi, they go from row number 6. Row 7 sees Lewis Bird and Gus Lawrence, and all British row 7. They'll have Mark LaPiccolo and Keane Garrity on row number 8. Johan Aluja and the pole sitter from qualifying started on row number 9 of Max Radek.
On row number 10, we will have Bertram Sach, another great recoverer into the field with Aaron Garcia by his side. Row 11, Dylan DeVos and Phil Judson. Row number 12, Roxanne Lantinga and Florent Panes. Row number 13, Sam Woolley and Aaron Kivilo. Sam Van der Eyden and Clovis Nogueira, one of the 3 drivers with the fresh boots on row number 14. Row number 15, Jari Pispanen and Samuel Ifrid. And we have Axel Alex Pinera and Ogli Mattison at the back end. Row 17, Rocco Curcio and Otto Mikkonen, Yanis Bouillet and Oscar Repetto running up the top 36 of that grid. 17 laps to go through, and you can see drops of rain falling at a bigger rate now in Cremona. That's going to make the driver's life even more difficult, as there's been the case yesterday and this morning already. But now, as you said, it's always better to at least get into one single condition and to have changing or mixed levels of grip around a track. So it's either totally dry, either totally wet, but the in-between is not really up to the liking of the drivers. As we can see the supporters of the Pantano Racing team on the sideline. You might have recognized the French driver Luna Cléret. Unfortunately for her, not qualified for the final, but she will keep a close eye on the battles on track for some of the Pantano representatives in that top peloton of the X30 senior class. Now, let's get ready, because there's a storm coming into the skies above our heads, but also onto the track of Cremona. Who will get his hands on the first trophy of the season? We've seen a lot of people sometimes getting their hand on that trophy in the opener, not quite able to make it stick and be consistent on the course of a full season. But Danny Caronini has a lot to play here.
He certainly does, and they are teasing us here. It's a false start. They send them round again. Well, that gives them a little bit more time to get some temp into those tyres with the track cooling down as the rain continues to fall here. There is our race director, Martin Bean, on the gantry. He will have sent them round again. He's probably communicating now with race control, saying, right, that's what happened. Give me the kart number. I'd like to know who was at fault for that one. But no, they send them round again, and they'll just have to figure this one out once more. God, that rain really coming down now here, Guillaume. This is... I mean, this plays into the hands of the 3 drivers who have got those fresh wets on. Riccardo Ferrari is one of them, as we were saying. Max Radek is another one. The pole sitter from qualifying. Clovis Nogueira as well, freshly signed with CRG for the 2025 season, testing that wagon, ready for a very busy season of kart racing for him over the course of this season. There, though, the marshals just edging the drivers to kind of slow it down, bring it back. The rest of the field is not formed up. I mean, they can even see that. They can see the karts that are still coming around the likes of turns 9 and 10 while they're heading in towards turns 13 and 14. But the front of the pack now steady. Back of the pack just getting into formation. Hopefully this time around, we are going racing. Danny Caronini of Italy and Kevin Lantinga of the Netherlands on the front row. Are we going racing? 2025 is go in the IAME Euro Series, and it's a great start for both the front row, but it will be Caronini who holds on to the lead in towards turn 1. Lantinga gets a little bit tap. He goes sideways, but he holds on to third place as down the inside goes Van der Kerkhoff on that victory lane card. He's now wheel to wheel with Mackie, who's now trying to hold on to P4 as now the TB card tries to push through. And this is a brilliant start for Christian Biasate, who now makes it up into 4th place. And Mackie down to P5. Riccardo Ferrari is still there as well. He's running around in P6. The spray is now getting more intense, but Danny Caronini, crucially, is leading the way, and leading the way by some way.
Second biggest test of the opening lap after the turn number 3 to turn number 8. That's going to happen on the circuit of Cremona. Everybody coming through, and as I said, a couple of drivers at the back end into a spin.
Dear.
The 325, the one of Birel from MDC by the look of it, who went into it. Yeah, this is Florent Panes from karting team Sarrea at the wheel of his Birel machine, unfortunately, on the sideline, and that's the DNF, unfortunately. Florent Panes, the Swiss driver, quite unfortunate before getting into the battle. Talking about battle, here we go for lap number 2 out of 17. And look at Matthias van der Kerkhoff. We had seen him coming. He just climbed 3 places to find himself on the rear bumper of Danny Caronini, and one wheel just went loose as a result of that contact. But for now, the battle is raging for the lead. Kevin Lantinga down in 3rd with the crazy start, as you said, from Christian Biasati up into P4. talking about crazy starts, Ruben Moya went from P9 to P5 in the course of a lap, just in front of Cremona. Mackie dropped 3 places down to 7. Ricardo Ferrari dropping as well a little bit down to P8 from Bird and Zach Green in P10.
You'll have to keep an eye on Ruben Moya, of course, with this dynamic wet racing line that he likes to take, a very aggressive line, but it works for him because yesterday in conditions similar to this, he gained 22 places from the back of the grid to finish one of the qualifying heats in P1. There's a look at the live virtual championships there. Danny Carinini in the lead of this one will have maximum points to his name at the end of round number 1, heading to Zuera in Spain with 100 championship points to his name. Lantinga would be going to Spain in second. There, though, is other drivers, and that is Aaron Cavillo for the Tablar Racing team. Unfortunately, he was the other driver involved in that incident with Flan Panez, and they've had dramas as well. But eyes focused on this one here, as lots is happening now as Ruben Moya battling away with the rest. But there, the TB card of Christian Miasate in P4, certainly making his feelings very well known in the background there as Rattel dropping backwards. What's happened to Harrison Mackie, though? Mackie is tumbling down my list while 2 teammates have crashed together. 2 of the victory lanes are out of this race now, and Harrison Mackie's gone with them. So the 2 victory lanes is the pole sitter from qualifying. Max Radek and Danan DeVos, they are out of this race. But where is Harrison Mackie in all that situation? Is he off at turn 1?
I've seen his wagon just between turn number 4 and 5. Is out of this race by the look of it. Was he able to get recovered? No, his wagon is on the sideline. Harrison Mackie is a DNF for the Fusion Motorsport driver. He was starting from the second row of the grid. Harrison Mackie, one of the leaders of Fusion this time around. We didn't get to see what happened there. A replay might be needed, but Harrison Mackie, as a result, is nowhere to be seen.
It certainly isn't. So drama striking the Fusion team, but elation for Zanki Motorsport. And, well, I'm not sure, fluctuating feelings for the Victory Lane karting team. 2 of their drivers colliding into each other and going straight to the back of the grid is not something the team want to see. But one of their drivers here, Matej Vanderkerkhoff, though, for the team, is in a really strong position. More dramas out at turn number 1 as the rain is plummeting down. And there is Harrison Mackie at Marshall Post 3. That is at turn number 5, and clearly something's gone wrong. I'm not sure if that's mechanical in nature. Well, there's a wheel that's come off, and that's a second wheel that's fallen off. And now
that's
is
Mathis
that...
Mascot.
It is.
Mascot. Yeah, you can see him now. The wheel has gone off. This is the rear right wheel that just went loose.
No, it's Clovis Nougarade. That's the CRG that's going no further. The CRG in his first weekend after being announced with the team, and the wheel falling off the back of it. That's not the start of a season I think he'd want with a new team, but he'll have to watch the rest of this race from the sidelines. But this one here, Danny Carinini still in control, but Matej Vanderkerkhoff is closing in. The gap is about 1/10 of a second. Kevin Lantinga in 3rd place. Is he starting to close back in as well? I think the answer to that is yes. Here it is, and who's there in P4? Oh, it's Ruben Moya. He's back to play, and he's fighting for a podium here.
Yeah, every time we get to see Ruben Moya entering an hairpin, it's like he's going to miss completely the racing line. But that's part of his strategy. He's going around the long way to make sure to cut the corner, get much sooner than the other rivals back on the throttle to get a better momentum out of his different corners. So interesting strategy that has been paying off so far. He's up into P4. Certainly look at him going the long way around. A different race strategy, different racing lines than the top 3.
Here we go.
Shall we see a first attempt of a move from the Vanderkerkhoff on Danny Carinini? This is lap number 5 out of 17. Clipping the curve into turn number 2. Vanderkerkhoff and Victor Lane up in the lead of that senior final. Danny Carinini with the experience that characterized the Italian driver. He saw that coming. He could feel the overtaking maneuver coming. As further back, Ruben Moya is going his bit, at least trying to make his bit on the Kevin Lantinga for P3. Carinini felt it coming. He didn't oppose any aggressivity, didn't pose any blockage to Matej Vanderkerkhoff. He knows that the time might come later into that race to switch those positions as long as he can keep both Lantinga and Moya behind him. That's another story. We might find ourselves with a 4-driver battle. Lantinga and Moya switching positions, maybe trying to, at least for the Spanish driver, But now, Lantinga, though we thought for a moment was going to be out of reach to get himself into the battle, is now back from that third position on the rear bumper of Carinini.
Certainly is, and the battle's happening thick and fast just behind as well, because there you're seeing the likes of Christian Bianzatti. Ruben Moy goes through as well into third place. This is on. Lantinga, though, takes the inside line, and all the meanwhile, Van der Kerkhoff is breaking away. Danny Carinini now has to start thinking of the Spaniard behind him, now alongside him, now in front of him. Ruben Moya, beautiful wet racing line there, absolutely dancing that Pantana card around the lap here, rocking one of the new NASA panels in 2025. So is Danny Carinini as the two nearly collide at the exit of turn number 7. But it's a brilliant start, and there's the big lunge from Kevin Lantinga. That's what we've seen from him over the course of this weekend, moving those positions up. And now the championship leader, last year's championship winner, is now down into P4 and off the podium spots.
I'll be honest with you, Anthony, that's certainly one of the first time I get to see such incredible racing line strategy. Oh, contact! Unfortunately, this is Clément Autran, the 205. Yes, from 7th place, he got pushed out of the way, battling by the look of it with Bianzatti and Zach Green.
That's a nose cone.
Oh,
that's a nose cone on Ruben
indeed.
Moya if I've ever seen it. So that Pantano kart was gonna have a 5-second after that. It's bobbing up and down. That's definitely dropped. There's no way that that nose cone is on the bracket still. So that is an automatic 5-second post-race time penalty. So at this moment, Danny Carinini and Kevin Lantinga are still 2nd and 3rd up the road. But if they can finish within 5 seconds, but Ruben Moya's pace is brilliant as another kart goes off at turn number 2 and 3. That's the 217 going no further. It is Lewis Bird for the BMR Restart team. He's used to mud in the UK, but not used to it here in Italy. And unfortunately for him, he's out of it. Oh, look at that. Moya right to the edge. He's pushing that really hard now.
Yeah, definitely so. But Lewis Bird, look at him. He's back on the course. He was able to get out of the mud. The engine is still running. And now Lewis Bird tumbling down the order, unfortunately. But still back on the course to try to finish that final, that crazy final of the senior class. Lap number 8, let's watch that again.
Oh, 100% that is dropped. I know the officials here don't like it when I say things like 100%, but yeah, I'm pretty certain that that has dropped the bracket. You see it, when it starts bobbing up and down like that, you know it's not properly fixed, and that is a real problem for Ruben Moya. Now, okay, a 5-second time penalty now would give him 5.9 seconds. 5.9 seconds would drop him down to P7 in this race. He is closing in on Mateusz van der Kerkhoff. If he can get ahead and be clear by 5 seconds, he's got plenty of time to do that, and with his pace that he's got, it might very possibly happen. He'll push through. Here we go, though. Andy Rattel is going to be another one of the Pantano karts that's going to look to the inside of Danny Carinini. Sends it down the inside, and that's Carinini now out of a podium spot, especially if Ruben Moya does go down. So Danny Carinini here really struggling in these wet conditions.
Yeah, something unexpected considering the pace that he had shown all throughout the course of that weekend in changing conditions. But this time around, Ruben Moya, quite a shame for the Spanish driver to have that front fairing moving, because those racing lines that he's been taking shows so much confidence in his pace, but also in the capacity of his machine and the Pantano chassis. The 301 being investigated. This is Sam Satch down in P12, climbing 7 places. But now, the battle at stake between Andy Rattel in 4th place and Kevin Lantinga, upper position on the podium. Those two are going to try to shake things up a little bit, with Danny Carinini dropping momentum as well. He's not quite able to keep in contact with those two, as Ruben Moya, whatever happens, keep on having those crazy racing lines on the outside of each of the hairpin. That's at every turn you feel like it's going to go offside, but the grip is being able to extract, and the confidence in his machine has been all the more impressive. But hopefully we might be able to spot that moment when the front fairing went loose, unfortunately for him. In the meantime, 1 foot second between the Spaniard and Van der Kerkhoff in the lead. He's going to go for it anyway. I'm sure he's going to go for it. He has still a couple of laps remaining into that final. Look at him trying to push his Pantano machine to get as close as possible to Van der Kerkhoff. As in the meantime, Danny Carinini
Well, I'm
is,
just keeping an eye on the gap here,
yeah.
Guillaume, because you've got to think for Ruben Moya, if he can get in front, if he can at least get 5 seconds clear
That's
from
right.
the rest of those drivers behind, he might still make it on the podium here, but he needs to get past Van der Kerkhoff quickly, and he needs to break away as fast as he possibly can. There is Andy Rattel, currently rotating in 4th place on track behind Kevin Lantinga. Lantinga here has done, I think the nerves were pretty high for Kevin. You saw him, he was in his car, he was the most focused I think I've seen him all weekend. Usually when you go to him, you say, oh Kevin, you know, how is it going? Always happy to talk, always got a smile on his face, always wanting to have a bit of banter. But he, this time around, he was fully focused in that car, so you can imagine the nerves were up, but he's dealt with it perfectly, and he's still going around there in P3. Here though, Van der Kerkhoff in the lead, Ruben Moya in 2nd place, the gap down to 0.6 of a second. And this could be a very important one. You can see Ruben Moya, he's hunting him down. He's saying, come on, we can do this, we can catch him up. And again, you can just see how committed he is on the turn-in. He throws it in, he locks up the front, he tries to bring the rear around to really drift it through, and that's a small mistake for Kevin Lantinga, and that's what we talk about, the understeer that can kill you on a circuit, it can kill your momentum, it can do everything to you, and it's just happened to him there, and Rattel can smell a potential 2nd place here on paper potentially, and maybe even a 3rd place.
Yeah, Lantinga was maybe trying to emulate the racing lights of Ruben Moya. Didn't go according to plan, clipping that curve and almost going off on the outside of turn number 4. He's losing momentum on the Spaniard in front of him. Look at that again on the braking point under the pressure of Andy Rattel. That first clipping curb,
yeah.
a bit understeer actually on the outside, and he had to fight it through to get the momentum going.
He had the oversteer going into the corner, he clipped the curb, then when he was trying to readjust it, he tried to turn into the corner, and then it understeered. It didn't work out. Here we go. That's as tight as you like to be it. That's defensive line there. And Andy Rattel taking to the grass at one of the fastest parts of the circuit. And amazingly, they keep it both on the track. 2 different racing lines there, but the outside seems to work, but not this time. And Andy Rattel now can get the switch back, goes wheel to wheel, but there Lantinga sends it back down the inside. The driver of the Netherlands is denying the Frenchman a way past, but Andy Rattel will dig deep and will try again as the two continue to fight all the way down to hairpin number 8, but not this time. And Andy Rattel now can finally make his way through, and Rattel is up into 3rd place.
Into 3rd place indeed, but he will only have a couple of laps remaining before a checkered flag. Can he try to make the connection with Ruben Moya and Van der Kerkhoff? They're only being split by half of a second. Here are your 2 leaders, the Frenchman with that white crash livery from Victory Lane. Ruben Moya in 2nd, his teammate from Pantano, Rattel, down in 3rd. Different racing line. Look at Moya on the opposite side of the track compared to Van der Kerkhoff, trying to get a little bit of his wet tires to cool down, try to preserve them towards the later stages of that final. Fighting his way through at every turn, as he's been doing all weekend, but look at him coming with Van der Kerkhoff clipping the curb, trying to resist from the pressure from behind. Rattel still down in 3rd, Lantinga, Corinini, Zagrin, Biasiti, Autran, Barbieri, Gerati. The top 10 remains unshaken at this point on lap number 14 out of 17. As taking a close look at some of the drivers and competitors further back in the classification. We have 17 places gained, would you believe, by Rocco Curcio further back in P16. So the rain is going the way of some of the drivers as well into that field, as Samuel Ifrit is picking up a warning flag, unfortunately, into the final with 5 seconds penalty that comes with it. But as for now, the pressure is mounting on the shoulders of Van der Kerkhoff. What can he do? I do wonder always in that situation, can he be made aware of the fanfaring going loose of Ruben Moya? Is there a way with his mechanic to know the situation and know that that might be pointless to resist from Ruben Moya, considering that he's going to have a penalty anyway after the race, and him resisting from behind might also put him at risk of losing that position for good.
Yeah, no, it's certainly so. There's lots of dynamics that are at play here, but all Ruben Moya is thinking is go, go, go. That's all he's thinking. Push forward, keep your head down, get this position, see if you can break away by 5 seconds. At this moment in time, he has still not found those 5 seconds to help cover that off because Rattel is closing in, and so is Kevin Lantinga. They still sit third and fourth, and they are only 3 and 4 seconds behind the race leader, Van der Kerkhoff. Here comes Moya, though. Moya all over that rear bumper once again. You've got to give it to Ruben Moya. His weekend has been has been a tough one, but he has persevered through all of the ups and downs and has really pushed himself through here, only to have this pesky nose cone bite him back on this last race. Side by side across the line, there was 1/10 separating them across the line there, and Ruben Moya, he's testing the waters there to see if he can just squeak ahead of Van der Kerkhoff. But Van der Kerkhoff, Mathias Van der Kerkhoff, what can we say about him? Really, really great weekend. After qualifying 12th, he's fighting at the front here. The Belgian really delivering. Didn't have a real fight in the championship last year. Has come back stronger in 2025 with victory lane, but now he's under pressure from Ruben Moya. And Moya, no, he's made a mistake. Moya's gone too deep. He's gone too deep at turn number 8 and he drowns the engine. And now he will really fall down the order here because Rattel and Lantinga are right on his rear bumper. And that gives the clear track to Mathias Van der Kerkhoff of Belgium. The victory lane team delivering a superb package this weekend. Some of their drivers have struggled, some of their drivers colliding. This moment here though, heart in mouth, we've seen it time and time again, but this time he squeezed too hard and off into the runoff area, into the muddy puddle on the exit of turn number 8. But this man here on the final lap, Mathias Van der Kerkhoff, 4 places gained. He started at P5, driven a beautiful drive all weekend, has the man from Belgium, 12th in qualifying, and with this, now would lead the virtual champion standings joint with Danny Carinini as they head to Spain at the Zuera circuit. But only a handful of corners remain as the Pantano teammates battle in the background. Rattel's looking to claim a second here. Lantinga's looking to claim a third as they're fighting for podium spots as Moya's nose cone has dropped. But eyes on the Belgian at the front. Victory lane. It's victory all the way in Italy. Mathias Van der Kerkhoff wins round 1 in Italy in style. What can we say? Mathias Van der Kerkhoff, take a bow. You deserve that one. A brilliant drive over the weekend and clear at the end by 2.7 seconds ahead of Ruben Moya. Kevin Lantinga at the end of that one got past. Kevin Lantinga got up into 3rd place. So that would put him ahead of Ruben Moya and Andy Rattel. So Lantinga, he's going to get a 2nd place.
Yeah, incredible. The Dutchman had been pushing like never before in the latest stages of that final and jumped Andy Rattel on the line for just 38,000 of a second. Let's watch that back, shall we? This is the battle for P3. Kevin Lantinga on the outside, being pushed slightly on the verge of the track for the finish arrival between the two. And Rattel, he cannot believe what just happened with Kevin Lantinga finishing in the air. Enjoy. What a finish that has been, as we were just focusing on Mathias Van der Kerkhoff crossing the line as a winner. It wasn't over. It's never over before the checkered flag. And Kevin Lantinga just proved it once again. Van der Kerkhoff making shine the Belgian colors into the storm in front of Ruben Moya on track. He might pick up a penalty of 5 seconds to the front fairing being misplaced, but what a race and what a weekend still for Ruben Moya. That has to be applauded. As Kevin Lantinga, it has been updated on our screens as well. He's picking up the 2nd place of Ruben Moya, dropping all the way down to P7 with that added 5 seconds. Andy Rattel climbs on the podium. Zach Green P4, from Danny Carinini P5, Christian Biasati, Ruben Moya, as we said, Clément Autran, Andrea Barbieri, and Kian Gerardi for your top 10. The congratulations are in order from Danny Carinini to Mathias Van der Kerkhoff. Carinini very fair play here. He's been the man to beat all throughout the weekend. Certainly disappointed to miss on the podium on home soil for Zanki Motorsport, but the points that he has been taking all throughout the weekend will be precious for the final classification, that's for sure. Remember that he is the master of consistency last year, and he can do it all over again. Van der Kerkhove punching the air, the satisfaction can be read on his face, and there's gonna be celebrations aplenty for the French team of Victory Lane. As there's been a bit of an effort, you can see that on his face as well. Matthias Van der Kerkhove gave it everything to try to shine and end up on top. This hasn't been an easy race, and if it wasn't for Ruben Moya's slight mistake in turn number 8 coming towards the later stages, well, the pressure would have been on his shoulders all throughout the way to the checkered flag. Here's a look at the Drivers' Championship as they stand. Kevin Lantinga is your new leader for one tiny point, and why is that?
Because he finished P2.
Yes, indeed, because Matthias Van der Kerkhove is just behind in second place. Danny Caronini down in third, with Andy Rattel picking up the extra point for the fastest lap in this race. Clément Autran in fourth for Ruben Moya, Andy Rattel, Zachrin, Macchi, Piazzati and Barbieri. Unfortunate Harrison Macchi, we're going to get to see that in a moment in the replay of that crazy senior final. The starting procedure, and a good getaway from pole position from Danny Caronini, the first in the first few laps and first few corners of that opening lap, as Kevin Lantinga had a cracker of a start, not as much as Matthias Van der Kerkhove kicking the curb on the inside line of that double right-hander, putting himself into P2. A bit of a mayhem happening as well further back, with some drivers going off into that hairpin into the opening lap. One of them, this was the driver from the Ubik Racing, Samuel Ifrid, going the wrong way around into the pit lane, being forced on the outside line of that hairpin. But as you can see, a couple of drivers quite unlucky into that opening lap. Some of them going onto the grass and into the mud, and that big coming together that would cost its race to one of the drivers out there. Unable to get going again. Then we had the retirement for 311 of Aaron Kivillo, as the 204 of Ruben Moya would fight his way through. He went from 9th to 5th in the opening lap, and then disaster struck for Harrison Macchi, one of the strongest young men that we have seen this weekend. Then the DNF as well for Clovis Nogueirate. A wheel just went off for one of the contenders, one of the drivers out there. There were two of them dropping wheels with Florent Panes and Clovis Nogueirate unable to continue as the battle was raging. This is the moment, clipping the curb onto turn number 2, that Van der Kerkhove for Victory Lane took the lead from Danny Caronini. As in the meantime, you could see Ruben Moya already with his front fairing being misplaced, taking P3 from Kevin Lantinga with his particular driving style and those very wide racing lines that he kept on practicing all through the course of that final and the races before. That kept on paying off for Ruben Moya, climbing places after place, having a bit of a go on Danny Caronini up for P2 into the first segment of the track. Caronini would try to resist on the return of the Pantano driver, and while they were busy battling, well, that's the moment that Matthias Van der Kerkhove had been expecting to build a gap. Kevin Lantinga was back in contention, the 232, getting past Danny Caronini, the Italian. From then on, with a drop in momentum, unfortunately. Then that moment with Clément Autran being unfortunately sent into a spin by Zach, one of the drivers from Tibica, sorry, Christian Biazzati that would finish P7. A little bit of misunderstanding in Clément Autran that would finish P8 after that incident. Another driver having to DNF, the 217 Lewis Bird from BMR, dropping out of the race at the same place as Clovis Nogueirate, where the Frenchman lost his wheel earlier into that final. And then back with the front runners, and that little mistake from Kevin Lantinga that would allow Andy Rattel to get close and hopefully at some point get his overtaking done. He had to cut the grass to try to get ahead of the Dutchman in incredible fashion. The Pantano drivers, not only him but also Ruben Moya, went really playing with the edges of the track at every turn possible. But then despite that little mistake, Kevin Lantinga was able to get back ahead of the Frenchman, and that would be the order until the end of that crazy final onto the line, because Rattel would not surrender without a fight, as we're back here with the leaders. And that mistake that would have cost the victory on the road, at least for Ruben Moya, that tried his best to get P1 in the end, but he forced his luck a little bit too much. And then that crazy photo finish final between Andy Rattel and Kevin Lantinga. Rattel putting his hand on his helmet, thinking, what have I done in the last few meters, while we were focusing on the victory for Matthias van der Kerkhoff and the Victory Lane team. Well, further back behind, we had Andy Rattel and Kevin Lantinga giving us one crazy final battle between the two. Now, Matthias van der Kerkhoff, Ruben Moya and Kevin Lantinga, that was your Finnish classification on the road, as we're going to wait in just a few moments for the podium to get started. But what a crazy finish this has been between Lantinga and Rattel, split by just 38 thousandths of a second on the line. By the left side he went, the Dutchman. At some point earlier we saw pretty much on the same space onto the track Andy Rattel being forced a little bit on the right, just on that semi-kick before the start-finish straight, being forced to go through the grass onto the right, and then Kevin Lantinga just went for the lucky move on the left side. Well, a little bit down to luck, but down to driving skills as well to make himself up into the podium places. And talking about the podium, I think we are ready for the last one of the day. Over to you, Anthony.
Thank you very much, Guillaume. Yes, indeed, a very dramatic final in the rain for round one of the IAME Euro Series for Senior X30. But we have our top three representing France and the Pantano Racing team. Give it up for Andy Rattel. In second position for the Croc Promotions team from the Netherlands, it's Kevin Lantinga. And your race winner for Victory Lane, representing Belgium, it's Matthias van der Kerkhoff. And please welcome onto the podium the team's trophy as well for Victory Lane. We will now listen to the national anthem of Belgium. Give it up, ladies and gentlemen, for your top three in Senior X30. We'd now like to welcome James Geidel onto the podium to present the winner's trophy, and heading to third position, Andy Rattel. The second place trophy going to Kevin Lantinga. And the winner's trophy heading to Matthias van der Kerkhoff. And the team's trophy heading to Victory Lane. Well, a brilliant end to their racing as the rain falls again. Drivers, hold those trophies above your head, lift them as high as you can, and nice big smiles for the photographers out there. A brilliant end to a fantastic round one here in Italy as we head to Spain for round two. If we get everyone on the top step of the podium, get nice and close. That includes you, Dave, on the top step. Get up there, lad. There we go. Good stuff. Well, yeah, you could join as well. Brilliant. Nice big smiles for the photographers out there. What a way to end their final for your top three. Matthias van der Kerkhoff, Kevin Lantinga, and Andy Rattel. Well, we'll jump in very quickly and we'll have a chat with our race winner of this one, Matthias van der Kerkhoff, because what a drive from him. 4 places gained, a fabulous end to his race. So I'm just going to squeeze in there. Sorry, guys. Squeeze in. I'm going to come up there, Matthias, because it's quite tall. Congratulations. Well done. That's what we like to see. 4 places gained on that one. A great drive all the way to the end. Tell us, what were you thinking when you were hunting down and seeing Danny Caronini getting closer and closer in that final?
Yeah, I got a great start, to be honest. Got immediately up into P2, and then yeah, I saw I was quicker in the beginning of the race. But then, yeah, once I got past, I didn't look behind. I didn't even know he was there, to be honest. And then, yeah, just drove straight, flat out, and yeah, just won.
You had the tense moments as well where you were being caught by Ruben Moyer in that race also. Tell us what was going through your mind at that point, because I can imagine the trying not to make those little mistakes here and there was very high.
Yeah, exactly. I had the team telling me to really keep pushing. And yeah, but once again, didn't look behind, didn't really know he was there. Yeah, but the team told me I had nose cone, so yeah, no worries. So yeah, just straight go and win.
Well, a great drive for you on this one, and you head to Zuera with a championship trophy. So let's see what you can do at round 2. Congratulations and well done.
Thank you.
Excellent stuff. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We are all done here for round 1 of the IAME Euro Series. 3 more rounds to go as we head to Spain at the Zuera circuit just outside the town of Zaragoza. But from here, in the rain, plenty of action has been had for the minis, juniors and seniors. But for now, it's time to say goodbye. We will see you in Spain, and hopefully it'll be sunny there. Goodbye for now. The tram lines, the lights go green. Side by side over the line. Oh, who's got it? What a finish. Absolutely love it. The outside, how on earth did he hold on to that one? What a final, what a championship.